Hello, my name is Michelle, and I'm 63 years old. My husband passed away about 6 years ago, but I'm still working. I have 2 children, and 5 of my grandkids live in different states across the country. They each have their own families, and I feel truly blessed to have such a large family. One of my kids, Kyle, still lives in our hometown. He went to the local community college where he met his wife, Julie. I liked Julie well enough, but I didn't feel my opinion mattered as long as Kyle was happy. They got married shortly after and continued their education, each pursuing careers in their fields. Once they were both settled in their jobs, they decided to start a family, and I was thrilled at the thought of having another grandchild to spoil. However, Julie set strict boundaries when it came to visits. She controlled when I could visit and how long I could stay. While I understood this when Daniel, their first child, was a baby, it never really changed, even when he was 5. I tried not to let it bother me, thinking every family is different. Over the next 15 years, I didn't get to spend as much time with Daniel as I would have liked. We never grew as close as I had hoped, but we did share a love for books, so I always bought him books when I visited. One day at work, I received an unexpected call from Daniel. This was unusual, since we rarely spoke outside of family gatherings. I did my best to connect with him, as I had with my other grandchildren, but he seemed distant. "Grandma, are you free to talk?" he asked. "Of course, honey, anytime." "Is everything okay?" "No, no." "Why are you crying? Did you get hurt? Is anyone at home who can help you?" "Mom and Dad are here, but, do you need me to call them for you?" "No. I called you because I need your help." "My help? What's going on, darling?" "I need you to save me, Grandma." "Save you? What do you mean?" "She's not as sweet and nice as she acts. She's really mean to me when no one else is around." Suddenly, I heard someone coming up the stairs. "I have to go. Please don't tell them I called. Bye." I was left shocked and confused. As far as I knew, Julie was one of the kindest people. How could Daniel say such things about her? I didn't want to believe him at first. Maybe he was upset over something like being grounded. Daniel had always been a bit mischievous, according to both Julie and Kyle. But something in my gut told me he wasn't joking. The call haunted me for days, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. After some time, I decided to buy a hidden camera. I felt uneasy about spying, but I convinced myself that if Daniel trusted me enough to call, I owed it to him to help. If I found nothing, I'd just remove the camera. But if there was something wrong, I'd figure out what to do next. I hoped it would be a simple misunderstanding, and a long talk would set everything right. The camera arrived a few days later, and I set it up, glad to see it had both live and recorded footage that I could access through an app on my phone. After making sure everything was in place, I called Kyle. "Hello, sweetie. How's everything?" "Everything's great, Mom. What about you?" Same old, same old. I was wondering if I could come by one day. We haven't seen each other in a while." "Of course. How about this Sunday?" "That works, but should I check with Julie if it's okay? I used to hate it when Dad made plans without asking me. But don't worry, Julie will be happy to have you over." "See you then, Mom. I'll be there around 6 o'clock. I was glad to be going to Kyle's, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had other motives now. I was still excited to spend time with my son. It wasn't often that I got to see my family, so it felt special to have one of my children living in the same town. The weekend arrived quickly, and I made sure to get ready early. I decided to bring something along, so I went to the grocery store to pick up a nice bottle of wine and bought a couple of books for Daniel, knowing how much he loved to read. When I arrived at Kyle's house, I was warmly greeted by all 3 of them. But it was Daniel's look that caught my attention. He stared at me with such a sense of relief that I couldn't help but feel concerned again. Since that first phone call, I hadn't heard from him, so I had no idea what was going on. I spent the next couple of hours chatting with Kyle and Julie. We had dinner, drank wine, and enjoyed each other's company. At some point, Daniel excused himself and went to his room, likely because we were talking about things that didn't interest him. I decided to go and spend time with him. Julie tried to subtly stop me, but I insisted. I hadn't visited in a long time, and I wanted to spend some one-on-one time with my grandson. Kyle told Julie to let me go, and I headed up to Daniel's room. Once inside, I closed the door behind me. I walked over to him and handed him the books I had brought. We talked about them for a while, and since he seemed excited, I let him ramble on. I didn't bring up what he had mentioned during our phone call earlier. I wanted him to talk about it if he was ready, not push him. Our conversation shifted to other topics, like what was going on in our lives. While he was telling me about his school and other things, he grabbed a notebook and wrote something in it. When he showed it to me, it said, "Mom's listening. Can't talk about anything." I couldn't tell if he was serious or just paranoid, but I went along with it. We continued talking, and I quietly wrote my plan in the notebook. I told him I had brought a hidden camera and asked if I could set it up in his room. He quickly agreed. I found a good spot to place the camera, one that gave me a clear view of the room. After starting the recording, I checked my phone to make sure the camera was working. I sat with Daniel a little longer, then told him it was getting late and I needed to head home. Before leaving, I purposely left my scarf behind as an excuse to return if needed. As I headed downstairs, I heard footsteps quickly moving away from the door, which made me wonder if Daniel was right all along. I hugged him goodbye, said my farewells to Kyle and Julie, and then went home. That night, I was tired but couldn't resist checking the footage from the camera. I stayed up for an hour, watching it, just in case something happened. Kyle walked into Daniel's room and asked what we had talked about, and Daniel told him. That was it. I finally went to bed, exhausted from the day. The next morning, I rushed to work and didn't check the camera again until I knew Daniel would be back from school. Again, there was nothing of concern, and I started to think maybe Daniel had been lying, but I decided to give it one more day. If I didn't find anything, I would visit when neither Kyle nor Julie was home and ask Daniel to give me the camera back. That night, as I watched the footage while reading, I finally discovered what Daniel had been trying to tell me. Julie entered the room with a stick in her hand, with Kyle following behind her. I quickly unmuted the video. Julie asked Daniel what he had done all day and made him describe everything in extreme detail. Whenever he stuttered, she sharply asked if he was lying. If she suspected he was, she made him hold out his palms and hit his knuckles 3 to 5 times with the stick. I watched in growing horror as Julie hit Daniel more and more frequently. Daniel was sobbing, and Kyle just stood there, watching. I was filled with a deep sense of disappointment and disgust. I had raised my children gently, believing that kids are smarter than we often give them credit for. They can understand when things are explained to them. I couldn't understand why Kyle just stood by, letting his son get hit for no reason. I wanted to rush over and stop them, but what would I say? It would be strange for me to show up again, just a day after my last visit. Then I remembered that I had left my scarf there, which could be the perfect excuse to go back, but I needed to wait another day. To make sure I could see Daniel again, I quickly grabbed my phone and called Kyle. Hey, Mom, is everything okay? Yes, no worries. I hope I'm not disturbing you. No. Julie and I were just saying goodnight to Daniel. Alright then, I just wanted to tell you that I think I left my scarf in Daniel's room last night. I remember setting it down and forgot to pick it up. Do you think I could swing by tomorrow to grab it? Why don't I just bring it over now? No, I'm too tired. I'm about to fall asleep. It's been a long day at work, and I can barely hold the phone right now. Alright then, how about tomorrow evening? I can't. I have a game night with friends tomorrow. Well, Julie and I won't be back until the evening. Why don't you come by the day after? I really need that scarf for tomorrow. We're having a gathering. Okay, you could come by in the afternoon. Daniel will be home. Lovely, I'll be there around 3. Good night, Mom. My heart raced as I ended the call. I'd come up with a lie on the spot, but at least my call had distracted Kyle and Julie enough for them to focus on what I said rather than continuing to hurt Daniel. Before they left Daniel's room, I heard Julie tell him that he wouldn't be getting any food until dinner the next day. I was appalled, but sadly, I knew they would follow through with it. The next day, I took the day off from work and prepared myself for the conversation with Daniel. I was sure he wouldn't want to stay there, but I needed to hear it from him. I stopped to pick up some food on the way over. When I arrived, Daniel looked like he might faint. He was weak and exhausted. Julie had really made him go without food. I quickly gave him the food. and he devoured it, eating with a desperation that broke my heart. I felt so sorry for him, but I knew I had to help make things better. When he finished eating, I spoke to him softly. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Did you see everything that happened?" "Yes, darling. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I had no idea." "It's okay. Mom seems like the nicest person, but has she always been this way?" "The beatings only started recently, but the starving has been going on for a while. I don't understand why Kyle isn't doing anything. He's too scared of Mom. He just follows her, does everything she says, everything she wants, she gets." "Honey, I'm so sorry you've been dealing with this, but I need to understand, why didn't you eat anything at school?" "Mom doesn't send me to school on days she doesn't let me eat. I stay home. Mom measures the food in the house, and if even a little bit is missing when she gets back, I get punished more." "So she's starving you and hurting your education?" "I'm going to do my best to help you, okay? I need you to tell me right now, if you want to come live with me. I'll take care of everything, and I'll keep you away from Mom and Dad." "Of course, Grandma, anywhere away from here would be great. I promise I'll be good, just please take me away." "I promise I will, darling, but it'll take some time. Can you handle staying here a little longer?" "Yeah, I can. I've been here for 15 years, so I can wait a bit more." I carefully took away all the wrappers and made sure there were no traces of food left behind. I didn't want Julie to make things worse for Daniel. We cleaned up the crumbs and double-checked the room to make sure it looked just as it had before. Afterward, I went home and called Kyle to thank him for being cooperative and letting me pick up my scarf. I reached out to a good friend who worked in family law and explained the situation. He told me that fighting for custody would be a long, difficult battle. While I might be able to secure temporary custody, Julie could change her behavior and regain custody with little evidence. It seemed that the odds were against me, but I had a plan. I could use the evidence I had gathered to make Julie agree to let me become Daniel's legal guardian. Julie worked as a counselor at a middle school, and I knew she wouldn't want her child abuse becoming public, as it would ruin her career prospects. I continued to monitor the footage carefully, gathering more evidence and preparing the necessary paperwork for a guardianship transfer. I waited until the weekend to visit Kyle without giving notice. When Kyle opened the door, he seemed surprised. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you." Julie appeared at the top of the stairs, and Kyle hesitated. "I don't think now's a good time." "Why, what's going on?" "Just family stuff." "Why are you suddenly visiting so often? Can't I visit my son?" "I didn't think I needed special permission for that." "No, I didn't mean it like that. It's just that you've taken an interest in us this week, and it's a bit weird since you rarely drop by." "It's not weird. I only came over today because I have something very important to talk about with you both." As we spoke, I heard loud crying coming from Daniel's room. I could tell something was wrong, so I pushed past Kyle and entered the house. I couldn't just stand by. I rushed straight to Daniel's room. Bursting through the door, Daniel was sobbing, clutching his face, while Julie stood there, breathing heavily, glaring at him with such malice that it sent a shiver down my spine. I immediately ran to Daniel and asked if he was okay. He hugged me tightly and wailed into my ear. Julie huffed and walked away without saying a word. As Daniel calmed down, I saw his cheek was red and swollen, his knuckles were bleeding, and there were welts on his arms from the stick. A deep rage built inside me. How could anyone hit a child so violently? No child deserved that. I went downstairs to the kitchen, grabbed a bag of frozen veggies, and brought it back to Daniel to help reduce the swelling on his cheek. Once he seemed stable, I told him that I would take him with me. I asked him to pack as many things as he could, and then I went downstairs to confront Julie and Kyle. Julie looked furious, and Kyle seemed like he wanted to disappear. "How dare you barge into our home like this?" "Well, isn't it a good thing I did? You were hitting your child. What happens in my family is none of your business. Your child is my grandson, and he's part of my family too. You're hurting him, and I can't let that continue." "He may be your grandson, but you don't live with him. You don't know what a brat he is. I'm just disciplining him." "Who cares if he's a brat? He's a child, and there are many other ways to discipline a child without hitting them. You of all people should know this." "I don't believe in that gentle parenting nonsense. Leave me and my family alone." "I'm afraid I can't do that." I handed Julie the papers to transfer guardianship to me. Both she and Kyle stared at the papers, confused. "You both have to sign, or I'll release proof of you hitting Daniel." "What do you mean by proof?" "I set up a hidden camera in Daniel's room last week. I have all the proof I need. Neither of your jobs will appreciate what you've done. Especially you, Julie. If you want to keep your career intact, I suggest you sign those papers. You were spying on us? That's a gross violation of our privacy. I only acted on information I had. I needed to make sure Daniel was safe. Mom, don't do this to us. Give us another chance. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't want to hear it. I'm very disappointed in you, Kyle. I raised you to be better than this. You're just as guilty as Julie, if not more. I'm taking Daniel with me, and I expect these papers to be signed. If not, you know what will happen. They didn't put up a fight. As Daniel and I left, I took him to get dinner and ice cream, trying my best to comfort him. I gave him a safe space to share his feelings without fear. In the following weeks, I was granted legal guardianship of Daniel. Julie and Kyle claimed they planned to move to a different state and didn't want to disrupt Daniel's education, which they used as the reason for transferring guardianship. They did end up moving, and I was relieved. Daniel is doing much better now. He's happier knowing he won't run into his parents for a long time. He's one of the kindest and sweetest kids I know, and he thanks me every day for what I did for him. I intend to keep my promise to always protect him. Thank you for listening.